Heyo, welcome back to the Quniverse. I'm your host Q. So I've recently finished both the Vampire Diaries and its spin-off series, The Originals, and I can't get one specific character out of my head, that character being Klaus Mikaelson, or better known as Klaus. Before I go into this deep dive, I should talk about the series a little bit since this is the first time I've ever brought it up. Spoilers ahead for Vampire Diaries in The Originals. Vampire Diaries follows Elena Gilbert, a teenage girl that just lost her parents some time ago and gets entangled into the supernatural world of Mystic Falls, Virginia. She becomes torn between two-century-old brothers Stefan and Damon Salvatore. This video isn't exactly focused on them, but they'll be mentioned briefly. The series apparently has certain vibes to Supernatural. I say that hesitantly because I've never seen Supernatural, just from word of mouth I've heard. Klaus is the son of Esther and the stepson of Michael. His story starts long before the main series, sometime around 990 AD, and has been around for over 1,000 years. He was heavily abused by Michael specifically since Esther cheated on Michael with another man.
But my hope was short-lived, and when I found out that he wasn't really my son, my relief was glorious!
Michael fully believed that being abusive to his children, especially Klaus, would make them a lot stronger, which it does, but trust me when I say, it comes with a lot of baggage.
Yet there was a time when you knew me as your son. A time before all the disappointments, the revelations of betrayal. There were moments when all you had to do was be my father. And even then, you despised me, didn't you? I want to know why.
I don't know.
Esther ended up turning him, his siblings, and Michael into vampires, making them the first vampires to ever exist. Thus the name The Originals was born. So Klaus gets introduced halfway into the second season of the show, but even before then he had such a presence.
Who are you?
Who are you?
I'm Elijah.
We were gonna bring her to you. For Klaus. She's the doppelganger. I don't know how she exists, but she does. Klaus would want to see her.
We are told briefly just how big of a looming threat Klaus is as far back as episode 9 of season 2.
Who are you running from?
The Originals.
Yeah, she said that. What does that mean?
The first family. The old world.
Yeah, I'm not joking when I say this. It's unfair how early the Originals were introduced because Elijah and Klaus easily stole the show, just the two of them alone. Hell, the first time we see Klaus is when he takes over Alaric's body in the end of episode 17 of season 2. Klaus is very crafty and straight up devious, but when he really begins to shine is when he gets his actual body back.
Now that's more like it.
Joseph Morgan really brings this character to life. He's so smooth with how well he presents himself, but is very prone to losing his composure. Seeing Klaus snap and yell is just a big part of his character.
I'm the hybrid! I can't be killed! I have nothing to fear from any of you.
But when he has the advantage, he revels in it and makes it known to everybody. He's such a cocky fuck, but my goodness, I love it. He's also one of the only hybrids after he fully completes his transition at the end of season 2. So yeah, he's damn near unstoppable. Except there's one thing. He gets cooked by witches.
No less. As I send you off to join your ancestors, just know this is her fault.
Yeah, it's bad. But like Vegeta, this doesn't stop him from being such an overarching threat to the TVD main cast time and time again. So I'm gonna fast forward quite a bit here because trust me, there's a lot of Klaus content, but I'd be here all day if I tried to cover it all in this one video. It's gonna be a bit out of context, so just bear with me. Klaus ends up killing a werewolf named Jules, kills Elena's aunt Jenna that got converted into a vampire the same episode, and kills Elena. I say that last one with asterisks because before he finishes the job, Bonnie stops him and Elijah gets ready to run the ones with him. He does become a hybrid from this, but the story's so much deeper than that, I'm only really scratching the surface. Moving right along, Klaus ends up being the villain of the first half of season 3 until the rest of the originals are brought back to life after the daggers are removed.
What have you done?
What have you done? See, I've learned not to trust your vulgar promises, Klaus. We're doing this on my terms now.
Cole.
Long time, brother.
Finn, don't. Rebekah.
This is for our mother.
You're free to go. This is family business.
This scene says a lot about how he does feel towards the rest of the family and low-key plants the seeds for the events that will eventually happen in the originals. After really screwing over his family, it's no wonder they can't trust him here. Each of these characters have their own experiences on why they hate Klaus, so for the sake of time, I won't cover each of them here. Klaus also does begin to have a bit of a compassionate side towards Caroline Forbes. It's very sweet, but it's entirely one-sided, and it doesn't go far. He never goes past how he feels for her, but the series never makes them anything more than just friends. Season 4, he's no longer the main villain, but more so an anti-hero on his own agenda. Yeah, in this season, though he's still great, he gets benched for the most part until the very end. Except for the fact that he murdered all of his own hybrids, killed Tyler's mom, and gets worked by the big bad Silas, but let's not worry about that. In the tail end of season 4, Klaus gets a letter from Catherine saying someone named Jane Ann Devereaux from New Orleans is plotting against him, so he heads out there, leaving TVD and starring in his own spin-off, The Originals. Starting in season 5 onward, him and Elijah aren't in TVD anymore, outside of 2 cameos. Yeah, the fact that this man alongside Elijah and Rebekah stole nearly 2 seasons of spotlight is insane. But on top of that, this man being such a fun, overlooming threat really can't be understated. I really want to say a lot more about this character in TVD, but we gotta move on. So this series is focused on a lot of other characters, but for now, I'll keep it on Klaus. He's still his usual self, but now has to adapt with the fact that he got Hayley Marshall pregnant and is going to become a dad. And yeah, he doesn't take the news very well.
Kill her and the baby. What do I care?
Throughout the series, you really begin to see his compassionate side grow more and more. Don't get it twisted though, he's still a monster that shouldn't be trifled with, but he's not as heartless, or rather, not as bad as he was in TVD, for the most part. To everyone else in the show, he fumbles too much, but to the audience, he's really trying, like when Cammie's uncle was dying and chose to stay with them for his final moments because of how much respect he had for Cammie and Kyron. It's not all good for Klaus. Hell, in this series, we would learn a lot about his background and how messed up this character is. Like how Michael isn't fully to blame alone as far as bad parenting. We'd find out in season 2 Esther would never step in when Michael used to beat him. She was a goddamn enabler. She cared more about protecting her secret, that being the affair that she had with another man from Michael, than her own son. Which is beyond fucked up. It gets worse, unfortunately. Because of this, Esther placed the hybrid curse on Klaus to keep his werewolf side dormant. This stunted Klaus's growth greatly as a child, and again, all this was just so Michael wouldn't find out, which he inevitably does anyway, and ends up killing Ansel and his entire pack out of rage. Yeah, I forgot to mention it, Ansel's actually the name of Klaus's biological father. The fact that she claims this as protecting him is such bullshit, and horrible for just that alone. Talk about gaslighting 101. Seriously, the amount of nonsense this bitch spits out is fucking crazy. It needs to be studied. She's an irredeemable piece of shit, and Klaus got horribly abused, all to protect her infidelity. Hell, Klaus even states it right here.
Oh, you lied to me! To hide your own transgressions because of your own fear! My whole life, I sought the approval I was denied by the man I thought was my father. You turned me into the weakling he hated. Look at me! You rant and you rage about the monster I have become, but you, Mother, you are the author of everything I am.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We would also learn that Klaus really suffers from abandonment issues, especially since his siblings would always betray him, even when they thought it was for his own good. Other times, it was for selfish reasons. In Season 3, we learned back in the year 1002, Klaus and his family disguised themselves as nobles in order to hide in plain sight and stay at the Court de Martel's castle. It was there that Klaus and Aurora first laid eyes on one another. They began to fall in love, but unfortunately, it wasn't for long. Aurora ended up banishing herself to the Shadow Realm and becoming a vampire by tricking Rebekah into giving her blood just so her and Klaus would be together forever. Michael caught wind of where Klaus and the family were, so Klaus asked Aurora to run away with them. Unfortunately, Elijah compelled her to break Klaus's heart when he found out the truth about what happened to their mother, Esther. Aurora ended up telling Klaus all this information, and I'll be 100% honest, I don't blame Klaus for running the ones with Elijah over this. Yeah, Elijah did have his reasonings, mainly for protecting his family, but Klaus is emotional, so this fight was bound to happen. There's also Rebekah, who really did screw over Klaus, but I'll save her worst deed for a little later. Klaus's sense of loyalty being tested time and time again doesn't exactly help him, especially with his relationship with two people I consider loyal, or were loyal at one point. Those two people being Marcel Gerard and Elijah Mikaelson. Elijah watched Klaus as Michael used to beat him, and if he tried to get in Michael's way, he'd suffer his wrath too. Over the years, while they were on the run, Elijah felt he needed to watch over Klaus because of how he felt he failed him as a brother growing up. The story of Klaus and Elijah is one of, if not the biggest foundations to the series, so I'd rather leave it at that. But just know their relationship is one of the most important. There's so much more to this, but despite it all, Elijah has proved time and time again he's one of Klaus's best allies and a true ride or die. I want to go deeper into Elijah, but that's another story for another day. Probably future video. Maybe. Marcel is a different story. Marcel was a slave back in the 1800s but was taken in by Klaus. Klaus raised him to be the man he is today. However, things would take a shift when Marcel started to fall for Rebekah. With Klaus being against this to the point of threatening them both, they felt the best course to action was to let Michael know that Klaus was with them in New Orleans, causing the Mikaelson family to leave and for Marcel to pick up the pieces. Over 100 years pass, and that explains why he's the king of the beginning of the series. So this does tie in with Rebekah because this was initially her idea, and they both went behind Klaus's back on this.
All his life there's only ever been one man he has truly feared. My father, Michael.
The vampire who hunts vampires.
If he came here, Klaus would flee and never turn back.
This really was a really fucked up betrayal, even for Rebekah. I understand the whole aspect of falling in love, but that was dirty, really dirty towards Klaus. Marcel would offer peace to Klaus upon his arrival in the beginning of the series, but Klaus was straight up jealous of everything Marcel had. These two would begin to have a love-hate relationship that would span throughout the series, but they've always had that father-son dynamic. When Marcel became a super vamp at the end of Season 3, Klaus and Elijah tried to stop him, but Klaus surprisingly went with a much more formal tactic, while Elijah was the aggressor. Talk about a huge role switch. But when Elijah killed Marcel, you see and hear all from Klaus that he genuinely does care about Marcel deep down.
No!
But they didn't know he already drank the serum to become a super vamp, so when he died, he revived, but a lot stronger. So to reel it all back in, right? Klaus still looks at Marcel's family to an extent, but with how shaky things got, it hurts him to view Marcel as a morally great person rather than family he can trust. Camille, or Camille for short, was Klaus's love interest for the first 3 seasons, but again, requires some context. So Camille was first introduced as a bartender at Russo's in New Orleans, which is where Klaus and her met. Later he would see her looking at a painting. Surprisingly though, how she described it really broke through to him and brought out his humanity.
He's angry, dark, doesn't feel safe, and doesn't know what to do about it. He wishes he could control his demons instead of having his demons control him. He's lost. Alone.
I haven't mentioned it until now, but he's surprisingly into art and a great artist at that. Not famous or anything, but he's really passionate about it, and I just absolutely love it, honestly. Anyways though, Camille is a human that was not afraid to tell Klaus how she really feels, which for a human in this universe is brave. They begin to grow closer throughout the series as she would somewhat be his therapist, which was something he really needed, to be honest. She saw the good in him when others only saw a monster. She even supported Klaus when it came to the beef with Michael and was the only one who trusted him when he fought Dahlia alone. Essentially, Camille was one of the only people who saw Klaus as a person instead of a monster, which is why Klaus was always so quick to protect her. It's just unfortunate she would die in season 3. Camille would become a vampire thanks to a former ex of Klaus's, Aurora, who came back into the picture at this point, but she would later get bit by a super vamp named Lucian with no cure to that bite. Klaus, unable to save Camille from her untimely death despite his best efforts, used dream manipulation to express to her how he really felt, and she was able to do the same.
You stayed my hand, quelled my rage. You inspired goodness in me. And unlike all of the souls I've encountered and forgotten in the long march of time, I will carry you with me.
She would express that she's afraid to die, but Klaus buckled down, saying he's going to stay with her until the bitter end. Klaus ends up taking Camille's death to heart. This scene really does hit, knowing that the monster that is Klaus Mikaelson really did have people in his life he began to care for and even cry for. It's a really sad but powerful scene. Her death haunted him so much that in season 4 he began to see hallucinations of her time and time again. I'm not entirely the biggest fan of this relationship itself, but I love what it did for Klaus's character a lot. He definitely came out a better person because of her love and compassion, which is something he rarely got. This will be the last relationship I bring up, but we gotta talk about Hayley Marshall's connection to Klaus. But she needs a bit of context. Hayley was first introduced in season 4 of TVD, trying to help Tyler Lockwood break all the Hypers's desire to Klaus. She would eventually leave TVD and head to New Orleans, but when she was down there, she'd find out that she's pregnant with her soon-to-be daughter, Hope. Klaus and Hayley had a complicated connection due to their child. They never really got along unless the situation called for it. We fast forward to season 2, and at this point, Hope is only an infant. Hayley decided it was best to take Hope away from the Mikaelsons, but this seriously backfired on her. Klaus was so hurt by this that he had Dahlia place the Crescent Moon curse on Hayley and her pact.
So now you will be trapped in wolf form, save for the full moon, leaving you very little time to cause any further mischief.
Meaning that they were only allowed to be human on full moons only. There's a lot to this curse, but it's more so only connected to Hayley. Hayley and Klaus are able to move past this, but it was a long road to get there, which is understandable. They fight, and in the midst of things, they both see Hope walking. Klaus begins to regret placing the moon curse on Hayley and her pack, so for a time, Hayley leaves the compound, in which Klaus doesn't even argue. But by season 4 onward, the two of them are surprisingly on decent terms. Granted, Klaus does tend to mess things up, but hey, Klaus will be Klaus. Hayley helps Klaus escape from Marcel's clutches in the season 4 premiere and allows Klaus to see his daughter, who is now 7 years old at this point. Hayley's importance to the series can't be understated whatsoever, and even more so in Klaus's life. Seeing his growth from her honestly felt real. I can't express how much the connections in this series really bring these characters to life and how well each of them performed. You'd really think Klaus is just destined to be a man of evil with his whole life, especially with all these horrible things Marcel lists off right here.
Do you remember him? 1694. His wife accused Rebekah of witchcraft. So you turned him and then compelled him to drain his wife dry. Or this man, he was a simple farmer. In 1745, he made the mistake of owning land that you wanted. You could have easily taken it. Instead, you turned him and then made him burn his entire village to the ground. Or this woman, 1891. Her mother had pneumonia, coughed all through the night. You got annoyed. So you turned them both and made her watch as you burned her mother alive.
Which, don't get me wrong, Klaus did a lot of wrongdoings, but he does become a better man, especially compared to how he started in TVD. Okay, I lied. Last one, for real this time. But we gotta talk about Hope Mikaelson. Klaus's daughter Hope made him into a better man. Though he stumbles until he gets there, he inevitably does all he can to be a good dad to his daughter, which we really see it in Season 4. Season 4 Klaus feels beyond humbled. Him seeing his daughter for the first time as a 7-year-old after being locked away for 5 years. Yeah man, this shit hits in the fucking feels. Hope doesn't exactly do much until Season 4 because, well, she's an infant until then. Her relationship with Klaus is surprisingly wholesome, and you can clearly see he's willing to do anything for her safety.
Yes. And we'll kill that body as well, and on until she gets the hint.
Oh, you won't dare kill the body she's taken. Even now, she's locking herself within the greatest witch this world may ever know. And in a lovely touch of irony, it's someone you would rather die than allow to be harmed.
The relationship strained quite a bit with how Season 4 ended. Elijah, Klaus, Rebekah, and Cole had to use a spell from Vincent and absorb the spirit that was known as the Hollow that was controlling Hope. The catch was that they couldn't get near each other or Hope, or thus risk essentially causing an apocalypse. Hope in Season 5, about 15 years old at this point, was so hurt from how distant Klaus has been because of the Hollow, yet she had no idea because of how young she was at the time. Klaus had to push her away for her own good, but in the end, Hope ended up absorbing all the Hollow herself, again, just for Klaus to absorb it all himself, and sacrifice himself for her well-being. This man really had to go through hoops for his daughter, but was willing to do it all because she meant the world to him and showed it time and time again. That's the thing, despite Klaus being such a horrible person, you want to see him succeed. I genuinely do believe Original paints him as a morally gray person becoming good rather than a villain, and it doesn't get any better than that. I'm glossing over Hope's story quite a bit here, but it'd be remiss of me to not even bring it up whatsoever. There are other characters like Freya and Vincent who, while I could go on about how they helped shape Klaus to be the man he is, I feel it would be an injustice to just gloss over them since there's already so many who have made such an impact on Klaus. Comment down below on who you wish to see me analyze next. I'd love to read about your thoughts. Though this was a deep dive of sorts, I'm really only scratching the surface with this character. Klaus Mikaelson is arrogant, prideful, selfish, self-absorbed, and yet seeing his beliefs challenged again and again, slowly becoming a better person throughout the series, feels earned. His fuck-ups feel real within his characters, but his victories feel just as real. Even when he's the biggest asshole on the screen, he always finds a way to steal the audience's attention, and I absolutely love this character.
Loneliness, Stefan. That's why you and I memorialize our dead. There's the briefest of moments before we kill where we literally hold their life in our hands. And then we rip it away. And we're left with nothing. So gathering other people's letters or writing their names on a wall is a reminder that in the end we're left infinitely and utterly alone.
This is a bit shorter of a video, but if you made it to the end, please leave a like and subscribe. I also just recently started a Patreon to help push the channel to greater heights. Shout out to Smoof being my only Patreon member. No, I appreciate it, Smoof. Thank you. Let me know down below in the comments what your favorite Klaus moment was. Y'all know the vibes. I'll see y'all real soon. Thanks for watching.